ADHD Babes, the podcast. A podcast hosted by the ADHD Babes community for the community. Join us every 2 weeks to share in our babes' personal experiences, gain useful tools, and be educated by special guests in topics such as ADHD management, relationships, general well-being, tech and fun, culture, and more. Please note, nothing mentioned during the podcast is meant as a diagnosis. If you believe you have ADHD, please seek professional advice and visit or join ADHDbabes.com for help with diagnosis. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. And now, you're listening to the next episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. ADHD Babes is sponsored by Timo. Timo is a paid subscription app for smartphones and smartwatches that supports executive function challenges. It helps organise your life, stick to your routines, and work towards your personal goals in a visual and motivating way. Available now on Apple and Android stores.
Hello and thank you for joining us. As September is Sickle Cell Awareness Month, we have a special episode on ADHD and sickle cell. Today's episode is hosted by me, Julez, and today's topic is one that is near and dear to my heart. Just a bit about me. I am a carrier of the sickle cell gene, and I found out that I had the gene at the age of 24. My mum is a carrier, and my brother is also a carrier. So out of three of us siblings, it's myself and my brother. And surprisingly, I did the test as a baby, according to my mum. But it came back like I was all okay, and it was only until when I got to about 24 and I felt extremely weak, heavily fatigued, and I sort of fainted at work. Then I was just like, okay, it's time to figure out what it is. A lot of the doctors were like, oh, you're just anemic. And I was just like, okay, so what does that mean? So in the end, they did the test and found out that actually I am a carrier. So that's a bit about myself. And I'm gonna kind of like shift the gears. So joining in on the discussion today, we have two ADHD babes. Our first guest is Vivienne, who is our ADHD Babes founder, who you've listened to previously. So welcome, Viv. Tell us a bit about yourself and your relationship with sickle cell.
Hey everyone. So I also am a carrier, so I've got sickle cell trait. I'm not sure if any of my siblings have it. We did speak about it the other day and everyone was doing question marks. So I'm not sure. But yeah, sickle cell runs in my family. So I've got quite a few cousins that have sickle cell and sickle cell trait. And yeah, quite a few friends as well. That I didn't know until later on in life that they had sickle cell. So yeah, it's quite personal to me as well.
Okay, that's interesting because you said like a lot of people in your family have the trait as well as the actual actual sickle cell. So do you think at some point your siblings might potentially do tests, or are they just like, we'll just see how it goes?
I think now, like that we get to the age where it's like, okay, if you want to meet someone and settle down and have a family, it's like that's part of the family planning. So yeah, I think now everyone's kind of thinking about how can we get the test. But our mum also swears that we did it when we were younger, and that they don't think anyone else has it other than me. But yeah, everyone wants to just be sure and be on the same page. So
great. So our second ADHD babe is Moji.
Hello.
Welcome, Moji.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a bit about yourself and your relationship with sickle cell?
Yeah. Hi everyone. So I have sickle cell anemia. I'm from Southeast London, first and foremost. But yeah, I've got two siblings, an older brother, he has the trait, and a younger sister. But I didn't even have any real kind of comprehension of sickle cell until about the age of 10, because that's when I had my first sickle cell crisis. So that's when it, started to have direct impact on my life from that point onwards. But yeah.
Oh wow, age of 10 is so it's crazy that it has to get to a time where, even though sometimes the like NHS and healthcare don't really kind of like look at those things, and give us the proper precautions and tests, and it's not until you have your first crisis is when you are then kind of like, oh, okay, so these are the things that we now have to look out for and stuff. So glad to have you here, Moji.
Thank you.
And Viv.
Thank you.
It's going to be a great conversation.
Can I just also add that this episode is specifically being sponsored by Timo, who are an amazing visual planner app, and they're helping us with this wonderful campaign that we're doing. So big up Timo, big up your chest.
So some of you may be asking, what is sickle cell? So I don't know if one of you can kind of tell us what sickle cell is, so
I'll be
people
happy
listening.
to.
Yes, perfect.
No problem at all. Sickle cell anemia is a genetic blood disorder, and it causes a mutation in the red blood cells. So what that means is that the red blood cells become abnormally shaped, like a crescent moon or sickle. Hence, that's where the name comes from. So what happens is those abnormally shaped blood cells kind of clamp up in the blood vessels and cause blockages where the blood can't flow, and then that's where the sickle cell crisis can kind of come from and stuff, and it can cause major complications, and there's a myriad of different symptoms, but sickle cell crisis is the major one, the main one. But
Wow. So as some will probably know, sickle cell actually mainly affects Black people within our community. As also, I did know somebody who was from the Asian community who also had sickle cell. So it's quite common within the Black and the Asian community. And the reason why we're having this discussion is kind of just more awareness. Not only for the actual sickle cell anemia, but also the trait and how people can, like you said, mention family planning going forward. When you're looking out for partners and, wanting to have families, kind of considering those things. So I would say that this conversation is extremely important, and I'm glad that we are having it. And we're having it within our ADHD Babes community. So we love that. So I guess it will be good for each of us to kind of tell everyone how this I guess the sickle cell sort of trait and anemia symptoms affect your day-to-day life and how that overlaps with your ADHD diagnosis. So I will start with you, Moji.
No problem. It's kind of interesting because I recently got my ADHD diagnosis last month.
Yes. Big up you.
Thank you. It was definitely a huge relief. Kind of, sitting in limbo for a while, not knowing if it was actually if that's what was actually happening. But it has been a huge relief, but kind of still processing it all because it's still quite fresh. I've been able to kind of take some time to kind of backtrack and kind of use hindsight to see I can connect the dots in terms of my sickle cell symptoms and my ADHD symptoms. But I think the biggest thing for me is obviously with having sickle cell anemia, just having chronic anemia. So with that comes lethargy, tiredness, fatigue, low energy levels. The list can go on. So when you compound that with the ADHD diagnosis or ADHD symptoms, it can just be bruh. nothing is getting done. So I think with ADHD, one of the things that I struggle with is starting tasks, initiating tasks, and so that's already a big deal for me anyway. So now when you want to compound being tired anyway, it's just it can be that much more difficult to kind of start things. But when I am even eventually able to start, it's there's the poor concentration from being tired because of the chronic anemia. And then obviously we suffer from low concentration levels anyway with the ADHD, so it just feels like it's a double whammy.
Yeah, both
Do you know
sides.
What I mean? They're just kind of, they're playing ping pong.
Giving it buzz.
Listen,
Tell me about
don't
it.
get me started. So your girl be tired. That's what I'm trying to say. But so I think it just for the longest time, it just feels like I'm spinning my wheels, like nothing ever gets done. And when I am able to kind of do things, it's just like a very slow pace, you know, taking hella breaks, you know, getting easily distracted. So there's that. I would also say that, you know, with the ADHD, it can lead me to kind of forget to take my medication, because I take something called hydroxycarbamide for my sickle cell that helps me manage my sickle cell symptoms. So like on a regular, I'll be forgetting to take my medication. So I think that could be linked to the ADHD. I would also say that I am somebody that has a low tolerance for stress, and I think that's definitely derived from the ADHD, if you know what I mean. And so I am a highly sensitive individual, highly emotional individual, have been for my whole life. Like I was always like labelled sensitive, you know, and you know, it's just something that I've like just grown accustomed to. But with that, like obviously stress can be a big can bring the onset of a sickle cell crisis. So it's just like I feel like there's just that as well, and that's how they kind of overlap with each other and stuff. And obviously, as you can imagine, when I do go into crisis, that is like a traumatic and stressful thing in itself. So then it's just like, do you know what I mean? It's just this kind of ordeal. So yeah, I would say like those are the main things that I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, it's a big thing that I'm navigating.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's so interesting because when you mentioned the fatigue and feeling tiredness, I was like, yeah, this is my life. Because it's so true. When I think about this, my sort of symptoms, and people don't realize that you can have symptoms with the trait. It's not as, you know, life-threatening as a crisis, but you have kind of like the fatigue, the tiredness, the low iron, which iron is so important in our daily lives. But you know, ask me every time I go to the doctor, it's like, your iron levels are low. I'm just like, did you not read me?
Story.
Like, you
the
know,
past
my notes.
10 years.
And it's been like that. I've tried, unless you want to inject me and sit me with with iron, then by all means. But they never suggest those things. But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, definitely the sort of like feeling fatigue and the tiredness is and my energy. Like I have energy bursts. So like this morning, I was literally up at 6 a.m. applying for something. Ask me at 6 a.m. on a Sunday. Juliana, out of all days, out of all things to do. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, I'm tired after an hour. So trying to kind of like keep myself doing stuff, definitely links. And like you said, with, you know, forgetting to take medication. Oh, child, that is, oof. Like I also have depression and anxiety. So I struggle with taking my meds. And sometimes I can go into sort of kind of like really heavy onset anxiety where I don't want to leave my house and all of that stuff. And then I'm reminded that maybe, Julian, because you didn't take your medication and you haven't taken it for the last 3 or 4 days. So then I have to kind of like bring myself back to doing that. So everything you've sort of said, so proper relate. How about yourself, Viv?
Yeah, no, as you was talking, head is nodding, earrings are clinking. Oh gosh, especially like when you were talking about being told, you know, you're highly sensitive and like, oh, listen,
big sigh. Rejection sensitivity has me in a chokehold.
Listen, the thing loud.
It's very loud. Hey,
it's like, why are you shouting at me? I'm a child of God, stop shouting at me. Like, somebody could be whispering. I'm hearing shouts. Oh no, it's not easy.
I will literally cry.
I'll cry. I'm proper. Give me a click. I'll cry now. If you want tears, you're sitting. But yeah, no, that one I fully relate to, and like the way you explained it was really good in terms of like for other people it might seem like, oh, being like really sensitive or like not being tolerant to stress, but actually the impacts of those things, people can't relate to it. Like if somebody else gets stressed, they might shout and then go pub and have a small pint and then they'll go about their day.
Yeah.
But actually, if stress can have such a huge impact, because it has an impact on the body in general.
Exactly.
But then now add on sickle cell,
Yeah.
that stress in the body can turn into something. Like, do you know what I mean? The costs are higher.
Yeah.
And I think it will be good for people to acknowledge that. So it's like not to see it as, oh, you know, people are just being overly emotional or whatever. Actually, no, this is like a big deal.
It is,
This is life or death. This is trying to live a high quality of life, like you
Yeah.
deserve to live. So yeah, as you said that, I was just like, yeah, no, for real. And it's okay to feel that way as well. It's like,
and I think it's one of the reasons why, like, now I'm trying my best to find like strategies to, you know, regulate my emotions better and stuff like that. But because a lot of the times it will seem like, you know, my emotional reaction doesn't kind of match the stimulus or like whatever triggered me. But you know, that's just me. Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, I don't want to have like a high tolerance to stress. You know what I mean? I don't want to, like, I want to, you know, I will remove myself from the situation and stuff. But just another thing that's kind of popped into my head is like, it's you know, periods as well. So like that is, you know, especially when you like think about with the context of sickle cell as well, like you're already, it's like physically draining, mentally draining, emotionally draining, and obviously we know that like periods can worsen ADHD symptoms as well. So like it's one of the reasons why I try. It's not always possible, but I try to kind of let myself off the hook. Like I have zero expectations of myself when I'm on my period. Like I'm just like, listen, just chill out and just kind of, because right now, like, you know, doing anything is going to take all of your might, all of your energy. You need to conserve that because your body is in a fragile state because just in the fact that you're on I'm on my period or whatever. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there as well.
that's big.
That, absolutely. I even think that just naturally, like being on your period and just the stress and the emotion and even the week beforehand.
Yeah, like the PMS be PMSing. Like,
loud. Grabbing ankles. Ankle. If you can't see what I'm doing. I'm grabbing my ankle now.
So yeah, no, I oh god, it's everything you're saying is just so relatable.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like because I relate to that as well.
Yeah.
And I remember the irony, because like you were saying with sickle trait, and I didn't know this for so long. Like they tested me again when I was like I was 18. Because I ended up in hospital and they just did the test. They didn't even ask me, Sha. They just came and gave me one card saying sickle trait. So okay, fine. Now I know this thing. They gave me one A4 document saying, you know, when you go to hot countries, stay hydrated and blah blah blah. That was all. It's only like 5, 6, 7 years later that I'm constantly being told that I'm anemic. You know, I'm like, if I do intense exercise for the next 2 days, I'll be like in bed, whole body sore, taking ibuprofen, and in my head I'm just like, oh, I just need to get stronger. I need to train more. Not knowing that actually when you have sickle trait, there's like some of your blood cells are also sickle shaped. So in the same, it's like you're experiencing similar things, but like you said, it's not to the same extent. It's like a lot lower. But just trying to like understand how that impacts me, and the period thing, like it's loud because we're also losing blood. So people are already losing blood.
So it's just like and the anemia is just kind of doubling down more. So it's just. It's a huge ordeal, but it's quite sad that individuals with sickle trait are not kind of taken seriously because they don't have the full-blown disease. Like, no, you can't. I have family members with sickle trait and like they, you know, for example, my mum, she gets tired a lot and stuff like that. And so, yeah, like it doesn't mean that like they can't experience symptoms, even if it's not to the degree that people with the, you know, full-blown condition, do. So like, yeah,
I've been beefing. I've been beefing because I remember I kept saying, because my blood was low again, I'm fine. Like there's points where I'm like very clearly anemic, and sometimes where they're just like your blood count is low. For me, as far as I'm concerned, it's the same thing. But they're like, no, if it's low, it's fine. I say, okay, fine. There was a point where I was like, I feel like I'm back to anemia again because I'm waking up in the morning and I'm seeing stars. But they're like, oh, it's fine. That's just, it's because you're vegetarian. You need to include red meat in your diet. I said, sorry, did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Like, I said I'm vegetarian. How's the red meat going to come in? Was it? I don't know. Is this soy? Like,
and also, I definitely feel like they need to like provide that, like, you know, same way, you know, people do sort of dialysis when they have like a kidney disease. There needs to be some sort of kind of like opportunity for like, you
people
know,
with
low iron count, you know, where we can have iron like, you know, injected into us so we can have the enough energy.
Yeah,
because,
to manage life.
yeah, because if it's so important, then provide
help
the
me.
service. Like, help me.
Because they helped me. They were airing me for so long. Literally, it took me ending up in A&E, not knowing what was wrong, like nearly fainted at work. Took me to A&E, and then they were like, oh, you're anemic. So I'm like, this thing I've been telling my GP, and you're telling me it's fine, eat red meat. Now I'm in A&E, now they've given me prescription, to the extent where I'm like fighting them to like do the test to find out, okay, do you know what I mean? Like, it's just all the fighting, and it's all the like, I don't want to use the word gaslighting, because it's used too much, but it's like...
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like, I'm saying to you, this is what's going on, and you're saying, I don't think it's that. But then on paper, why don't you give... Like, I'm asking, what is my result saying? You're not telling me.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you know what I mean?
And when you consider the fact that, sickle cell is the biggest blood disorder that, affects the black community, you would think that there's more awareness, like, especially in the healthcare system, but there's not.
No.
They still kind of pass you from pillar to post. Some people don't even know how to get screened. You would think that there would be more advocacy, even though things are getting better, so I won't, play that down, but like, you'd think that more people would be willing to kind of give blood and things like that, but, sometimes, you ask somebody in the community what's sickle cell, and there's still gaps in knowledge, do you know what I mean? So more needs to be done, definitely.
100. And we're going to get onto that giving blood.
Yeah.
We're going to come to that.
So, kind of like steering the conversation back, a common misconception is that you need to have sickle cell to be affected by it. The truth is your life can be impacted, even obviously like we said with the sickle cell trait. So kind of before we were recording, we were like discussing this, we had like a meeting, and one of the areas I'd like us to discuss here is medical care, which you obviously kind of go into. We will go even deeper. So obviously, like we were saying, kind of feeling frustrated that going to our medical practitioners and telling them, I feel tired, I feel weak, and all of that stuff, and being told that, oh yeah, it's just this, and you're like, well, no, it's I have this or I have that, and like I mentioned, numerous amount of times where I've just gone to doctors and they'll say, oh yeah, we'll do a blood test comes back, oh yeah, iron count's low. Well, my iron count's always been low. You kind of see it on my records, so I don't know why this is a continuous thing that you need to mention to me, because I kind of know this. And then also kind of like going back to the tiredness, I remember kind of going to my doctor and saying, oh, I'm just really, really tired. I'm constantly sleeping. I'm a nap babe. Like, give me
that ministry, baby.
Let me tell you.
Rest is your birthright.
Please say again. I want it on a t-shirt.
Rest is your birthright.
Damn right. Because I love a nap. I need to have a nap to just kind of like bring back the energy again. And some people were just like, Juliana, you're napping again. I said, look, let me tell you, don't watch me, watch yourself. Because this nap is needed. So it's kind of like, what sort of like misconceptions have you kind of like had going to your GPs and your medical practitioners, and you just roll eyes and it's like, yeah, here we go again.
I could be here for weeks, months, years.
Deep sigh and black girl.
Listen, because I've got so much to say. Like, I think medical racism, full stop. Like, that's the first.
Full stop.
That's the the system, the healthcare system is laced with that, and it's just such a shame, because it really means that when you're desperately in need of care, you don't even want to go to A&E. You don't even want to have hospital admission, because sometimes, and I know that there's other individuals with sickle cell that can relate, that like you think you're better off at home, because like you can probably look after yourself better than the experience that you're going to get in the hospital. But like, there's just things like, pain levels not being believed, they're just like playing it down, constantly asking for increase of pain medication, and they're just like palming you off and just being like, oh, we just gave you morphine an hour ago, whatever the case may be. And it's just like, it's just so deeply dehumanizing and just makes you feel so small in a place where you're supposed to be, lifted up or being nurtured, you know what I mean? So
cared for.
Exactly. So it's just very frustrating. I've had times where I've been in hospital, had a severe sickle cell crisis, and had to be admitted, and I think I was in there for about a week, and still in severe pain, even with all the pain medication, with the drip and fluids that they were giving me. And I remember when the doctors were doing their rounds and they came into my ward, they were like, oh right, we're going to discharge you. I'm like, hello?
Try.
What? Why?
Ooh.
I said I'm still in pain. Oh, and you know, you don't look like you're in pain. Do you know that one?
No.
And it was just like, I just wanted to kind of like jump into a hole, because I was just like, there's no way that I am going to be able to, you know, survive at home, because I'm still in a lot of pain. Like, and it's just, yeah, it's just a dehumanizing experience, and it's just, more needs to be done, because like, you know, and there's another thing as well. It's like, a lot of people with sickle cell anemia are stereotyped as addicts, you know, just wanting, you know, more drugs or more pain medication, when really and truly, like, if anything, we're playing down our pain. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's terrible. It's terrible, and yeah, more needs to be done, I think, because,
100.
yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. The fact that the doctor was like, I'm going to discharge you.
Because you don't
Yeah.
look like
Do you
you're
expect
in
to be
pain.
screaming down the ward?
And I think that's it, like, because like it can seem like it's an invisible condition, because like you're not like, I don't know, bleeding, or you know, there's not, you can't, it's not, it's all like the pain is kind of internal.
Yeah.
But
it's in the blood.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, they just like take the piss.
It's so interesting, because you kind of think that, you know, the medical profession has come a long way, but there's still like 10 steps backwards when it comes to, you know, kind of realizing or understanding that, you know, there are invisible diseases, there are things that just can kill people, and you know, to sit there and just assume, oh, because you look able, you know, I'm gonna. The ableism is I've got a story, but that's for off the podcast.
Off the record.
But like yourself, Viv, you kind of said that, you know, there has been moments where you have been, you know, in hospital and explained, and you know, they've kind of, you know, kind of just like brushed you off.
Like, it's common knowledge. Like, I was gonna say, in response to what you said earlier, though, like, because I know they statistically found, I know it's with black women when they're pregnant, that they're less likely to get painkillers than their like white counterparts.
Yeah. So
there's something there about, like, when black women say they're in pain, they're not, the pain is not validated by like health professionals. And in my fear is that the whole black women strong thing is like, they're assuming that if I'm crying, my tears are different to somebody else's tears. Yeah. Or if I say I'm in pain because I'm not hysterical, it means that it's not really that deep.
Exactly.
That I should be on the floor.
Yeah.
Before somebody actually
acknowledges.
And that's just so, like, because why should we perform pain to be heard and validated and protected? Like, we shouldn't need to perform. Our words should be enough. So as you said that, I was just thinking, like, because even the wording, like, you know, it doesn't look like, but that's by your standard.
Exactly.
The way you think people should look when they're in pain, or the way you think black women should look when they're in pain. But that you're not the standard. What the person saying, I'm in pain.
Yeah. If they would just believe us, then, you know, it would just be a more smoother process and just a more positive process. Like, and when you think about the fact that, like, you know, being in pain, you know, or sickle cell crisis is such a traumatic event anyway, you now want to kind of, you know, add that all of that external stuff on top of it. It's just it's so sad, and it just makes the experience so. And then you kind of internalize things like, is it my fault, or is it like this, that, and the other? And it's just, you shouldn't have to wait in A&E to be seen. Like, there should be like different protocol for people with individuals with sickle cell, or, you know, when you call the ambulance and they're like, oh, you know, we'll be there, and it's like 2 hours have passed, and so you're just like, it's just
It's
mad.
not on. No, it's bad. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. In terms of like my experience with medical professionals, it's pretty similar, just not to the same degree.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember the first time when I started realising I was anemic, I was probably like 24. But then they were saying, I was like, I can't get out of bed. Like, I can set my alarm, fine, I know ADHD, fine. Like, I don't want to get out of bed, fine. But this one is different. Like, this is very, very different. I can feel the difference. Now it feels more like, before I know it's my mind. Like, my mind is not allowing me to get out of bed. But now physically, even when my mind is ready, it's like, it's now looking at the body like, why are you not catching up? And I'm telling them that it's getting harder to get out of bed. Like, my motivation is low. I don't have energy. These are all things that you have with depression. I'm like, the same depression that I had before. So it's mutated. So it's a different. I don't understand. Like, it took steroids. Like,
it just advanced itself.
It went to uni. It scaled up.
Don't finish me.
Like, you're not listening to me. And then it was only when I went back the third time, they said, okay, what we'll do is we'll do a full body count just to make sure that only for them to now say that, okay, cool, you're very anemic. Put me on that F small pill that
the iron one that makes you constipated.
that I was drinking with green tea because
when the doctor said that, I said, okay. I said I'll collect it.
Where did it go? Where is it?
I'm not taking that. I said for me to be feeling bloated, wanting to go to the toilet.
From one problem to another, bouncing.
Right.
But yeah, it was after going back and back, and I think that's the part that wears me down. Where it's even so this recent time that I've had to go A&E and then go back on the iron tablets. Like I remember literally wanting to. So they said they're gonna retest the blood. They retested my blood, but didn't test the iron, and I'm like, I tested for iron. Like, hello, you had one job, and it's like the fear of, I genuinely didn't even want to call them back to ask them to like redo the test because the fight to even get them to do the test, and I'm having to explain to them, no, you didn't book the test, it was A&E because I ended up at A&E and they're the ones that said I'm anemic. And I'm like arguing my case just to like make sure that I'm alright. And I remember at the time I was just like, I'm about to go abroad. I don't want to faint to when I'm on the beach. Like, let me know if
because healthcare out there is not free. I have to pay.
Insurance.
I have to pay.
Or have you have insurance.
Yeah.
So that stress, like, and I think that I'm trying to not do it, and it's good sometimes to have community because, like, sometimes when I get anxious, like, I'll put in the Discord, like, oh, has anyone experienced it? Because I remember before it was my period, where I kept going to them, like, look, my period has lasted a long time. Like, help me. Like, oh, it's still within normal. Oh, this. And then they was like, oh, you've got polycystic. One doctor says you have polycystic ovaries. One says, well, you have cysts on your ovaries, but it might not be polycystic. Which one is true? Somebody told me. Like, so I think
you should just do the relevant test instead of I think, I know, I believe, I'm sure.
See, are you a medical doctor?
Yeah.
How can you have the solution?
Let me tell you.
Jesus.
Let me tell you. You think that these people that did 7 years, 7 years, 7 to 10 years.
FY1. FY son. Yeah. No, man.
You leave the place more confused than you came in. It's just like, what is going on?
What have you been doing all this time? Gisting.
So...
Oh, no, man. So I genuinely, like, I get anxious now, and I'm already anxious about, like, there's certain things that will just drive my mind to, like, think of all scenarios.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting nervous to call the GP at 8 a.m. and fight for my call to speak to the GP just to say, can you test me? Because I don't want to fight, like, I feel like I'm asking for too much, or like, oh, maybe it's me, maybe I'm just overthinking it. But actually, then when the results always come back, like, my gut is always right. So, but it's like, it's wear and tear, because you're already dealing with your ADHD life of, you know, I'm forgetting stuff, I've missed this, I can't start this task that I was supposed to finish 2 weeks ago. Then you're managing, I'm tired, I'm taking, you know, vitamin C so that I can take, do you know what I mean? There's so many things you're already doing, and now on top of that, to just get the help you want, I'm even scared because I don't want the GP to start biting my neck off. Like, it's long, and I know the system is tired, like, I know that everybody's stretched, I know that, like, the NHS funding is not hitting the places that it needs to hit. So I understand the wider context, but as it impacts me as an individual, it's not helpful.
No, of course.
So it's not easy, man.
No.
This has been sort of like interesting, but I want to kind of like steer the conversation a little bit more into like education. So I'd like to understand how sickle cell has impacted your education. Moji?
In my so like I said earlier, like I had my first crisis for around the age of 10, and so that's when I started to kind of have gain a better understanding of how it affects me and stuff like that. But in terms of like my school years, like I was in and out of hospital, as you can imagine, just like, and then that leads to you having to play catch up, you know, in terms of education and stuff. So yeah, it was quite hard. Also, I even remember in primary school, like, because I had sickle cell, like, I was allowed to go swimming, but like if the pool was too cold, I wasn't able to go into the pool because it's just like, no, like that might trigger a crisis or whatever. Secondary school, like PE, like winter months, I was like, nope, that's not me, because like it might be too strenuous and like it might just kind of cause a crisis. And so yeah, like things like that, it was just you know, playing catch up and just being kind of excluded from certain activities because it might just overwhelm me or just be too much and stuff. So yeah, I think when I think about like sixth form, like I did well in the subjects that like I guess this is kind of maybe going into ADHD now, but like I did well in the subjects that I had like a good interest in, like sociology, English, but like everything else is just
Fell down.
big mess up. Big mess up.
Like, no.
Science, maths, what? We don't have to talk about that. But yeah, so it was a struggle. University as well, like I had to get an extension for my dissertation because of like health concerns and stuff like that. So like just constantly playing catch up, constantly trying to kind of match my peers or whatever. So yeah, it was just kind of a little race. I don't know. Yeah.
I'll big up you for getting through it though.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's not easy. Doing it with no complications is even hard.
Yeah.
So let alone like undiagnosed ADHD and sickle cell. Like big up you for pushing through it.
Thank you. Yeah.
And it's so interesting because I'm thinking, because obviously I didn't find out that I had the trait until I was 24. So kind of going through life, just you know, oh yeah, I'm feeling this way, but. And then also not finding out I had ADHD until maybe last year. And I'm 30. I'm 34.
That don't cry.
Yeah, days, that's what's up.
Yes.
So sort of kind of just going through life, being just the unknown and just being kind of deemed, oh, Juliana, you're not trying hard enough, or Juliana, you're being lazy, get up, do this, do that.
And to apply yourself.
Yeah, when all of this stuff, once I started getting the diagnosis for certain things, I was like, oh, it's making sense. But I still have this guilt of like, oh, well, you know, why am I tired today? Why do I feel like I don't want to do anything today? Come on, you know, everyone around you. Because it's been ingrained in me. I've been made to feel that, you know, because I'm tired or I don't want to get out of bed because my body physically can't do it, it's kind of like, you know, how do I then kind of go on with that? So it's actually quite interesting because I was even thinking kind of like when I think about school, and I only had access to my medical records maybe like beginning of this year, and seeing all like previous sort of things, and it's more linked to kind of like ADHD. So a lot of like the head teacher at the school I went to actually identified that there was, you know, I had behavior, and back in those days it was always called behavioral issues or behavioral problems, and approached my parents, and my parents, typical Nigerians, my daughter is okay, she's fine, she doesn't need help.
God forbid.
God forbid. What sort of nonsense are you putting on my daughter's head? And they're just kind of like,
so this is my enemy, not me.
But in the end, it feels like obviously they didn't know any better. But that could have helped me in so many ways. You know, having that additional support in class. And I did sometimes have that, but not all the time. You know, kind of teachers understanding, okay, Juliana has this, or, you know, when Juliana gets frustrated, because I used to get frustrated in class so much because the information wasn't going in, or I was just distracted. I was always kind of like told, Juliana does apply herself, but she's easily distracted. I heard that when I look at my school reports, I'm like, the trigger words, distracted, easily distracted, concentration. Oh, it's like their favorite vocabulary in the dictionary. So yeah, education for me was sort of like, as much as I loved learning, it was difficult because, you know, trying to apply myself, trying to stay focused, and all of those things. And even now, I'm sort of like an adult where I want to do everything. Today I want to be a DJ. Tomorrow I want to be a comedian. Tomorrow, the next day I want to be a writer.
If I could, I can be a butterfly.
Let me tell you, if I could fly, I will be doing that.
Possibilities are endless.
Let me tell you, when you have ADHD, you want to do everything. And when I had the discussions with like my brother and sister, they're like, oh, Juliana, here we go again.
Another story.
What is it this time? What do you want to do? I'm like, you know, I'll be doing research, and the research is so intense.
Yeah.
I can spend hours on the internet.
Hyper-focus, babe.
I'm like, you know, I decided I'm just gonna be a vet. What? Yeah.
of Daisy.
Daisy's my first start into veterinary life. So
Shout out Daisy the dog.
Let's go down that route. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then the following day, I'm like, no, actually, I want to be a doula. How do I get into that? Let me tell you. My mum was like, so she tries to keep up. Everyone tries to keep up around me. I'm like, look, I want to do everything, because I think what people don't understand that it's a blessing to want to be able to do all of those things.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about, my ADHD diagnosis, being able to kind of be like, to soak in all the information and just be like, I'm just going to learn something new today. Yeah. Let me tell you, my general knowledge, super. Let me tell you, add me to a quiz. I know the answer.
Yeah, I want you on my team.
Let me tell you, that's what's up. But I'll pass it over to you, because I could be here forever.
Yeah. No, I relate, man. Multi-talented. That's what we are. But with school, I think when I look back, I realised the main thing where my sickle trait was coming up was with athletics. So I did a lot of sport, and now that I look back, that helped me maintain concentration in school, because I was always being taken out of class, whether it's netball, rounder, basketball, athletic. Like anything I could do, I would do, because I wanted any excuse to get out. Yeah. But then specifically with athletics, I would do 800 and 1500. And whenever I would finish, I would be in pain for days. And I remember there was a point where I sat down with that teacher. I said, Miss Dimmick, I remember, I said, Miss, I can't do this one anymore. Like literally, I was like, no, the pain I feel is too much. She's like, look, Viv, this is the final, this is the last one. I won. I still have that gold medal somewhere in a cardboard box. But I still had that same at the end, my whole body. And now that I look at it, I'm like, oh my God, of course that's what was happening. Yeah. Like, I wasn't hydrated enough. Whatever was going on with the blood was going on. Yeah. And I remember, like, people used to think I was exaggerating until they would see, like, how stiff my body would get on the way back to ends, because they're always out of ends competitions. So I think that was the main way it came up for me in school. And it kind of continued, like, whenever I would do intense exercise. But then I just started, like, taking it down to I need to drink more water. I need to just get stronger so my muscles get used to it. But obviously, it's never going to get used to it because it's blood. Like, you can't train blood. So,
wow. The education thing, ooh. As much as I'm like, do I want to go and start learning again? I'm just like,
That's what I think sometimes. I'm just like, it's a long road.
It's really a long road to even get the degree, let alone try and think about completely doing another sort of like 180 and do another subject. It's really not easy. It's kind of like now having the knowledge that I have now where I didn't before, you kind of think, do it. Am I really sure about this? Yeah. So it's really, really super interesting. Whilst we're on the matter, what about relationships? How has relationships with your friends and family and partners been affected by sickle cell?
I guess for me, in the context of like friendships, it can be quite socially isolating, because if I'm not feeling my best, I might not be able to come to social like events or things of that nature, because like if I overdo it, that could bring the onset of a crisis. I actually remember one specific time. This was like quite a long time ago, but I got the opportunity to go to China with my university. Yeah, it was amazing. Like the itinerary was amazing. We got to kind of go to Beijing, climb the Great Wall of China. Yeah, it was amazing. Like it was one of the best things that I'd ever done, especially because with sickle cell, you're even worried whether you can do like long haul flights because of the lack of oxygen and all of that kind of stuff. So I was actually advised, by parents, like, no, it might not be safe to go and stuff like that. But my hematologist was like, no, you got this. So like, I'm glad, because like I got the travel bug from then. But anyways, let me not go on a tangent. But anyways, I remember like one of the days or one of the nights, like we got back from some activities, and like the rest of the students that I went with, they were like, oh, let's go and kind of sample the nightlife of China. And my body was like,
You better sit down. Stay in that bed.
Better don't.
Take several seats because it might just get long for you. So I was just like, you know what, you guys, I'll be there in spirit. Have a drink on me, and I'm just gonna kind of like stay in the hotel and stuff. So those kind of things, like you just kind of have to like know your limit and stuff like that. So I think friendships, like it can just be like, I'm not coming to that. Sorry, not sorry. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
I hear that. What about you, Vic?
Respect it. I think because with the sickle trait, it's more, for me, the way it impacts me is like the tiredness and like how I feel after exercise. So I guess I think the main thing is like when I hit the serious fatigue, like when it's a combination of like my period being really bad, maybe my diet's not really great, haven't been balancing my time properly, and then just like where the exhaustion comes in, and then feeling like I want to spend time with people are doing events, doing stuff, and then it's like I really want to go, and logically there's nothing I'm doing on this Friday evening. However, because I'm already exhausted, and if I do this now and then do something tomorrow, do something Sunday, by Monday I'm flat out and I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And it's like trying to communicate that without sounding like I'm just making excuses is really hard. Yeah,
it is.
And sometimes I do up avoidant and just fell asleep. No, you didn't just tell the truth. Tell the truth and shame the devil.
Yeah.
But
I do be falling asleep. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm like, oops, sorry.
Anemic babes are going through it. People think you're cheating, not knowing you're snoozing. Netflix is asking, are you still watching?
Literally.
Yeah. No, sometimes I do fall asleep, but sometimes it's just anxiety and like not knowing how to word that. If I do this now, it might like
knock-on
ruin
effects.
And I don't know what it is, but I just haven't found the ability to confidently explain that to people yet.
Yeah.
Same.
So I just run away.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
because it's kind of hard because you feel like nobody understands, and like sometimes for me at least, and I've like felt like this with ADHD and sickle cell, like even like the thinking about how you're going to explain it is exhausting. Like so it's just like you know what, like the people that get you, just like they know you don't have to say too much, you know, hopefully. And I'm still kind of trying to navigate that and stuff, because like you do feel like awkward or comfortable, but like you do have to kind of build up some confidence
to say
to be
it,
able
innit?
to
I'm gonna get there.
Me too. I'm with you in the same boat.
We're learning together.
Or I just wait for my friends to be like, oh, so Juliana, I was thinking like I can't bother today. I'm like, fantastic.
Yeah, those are the best. Those are the best.
Now I don't feel bad. Literally. I'm that sort of person that's waiting to the last minute that I have to have a conversation with myself.
Yeah.
Again, the guilt comes into it because like
yeah.
you know, you've rescheduled twice already.
Yeah.
And then it's now the third time. It's just like, ooh, because obviously like with my anxiety, it gets so severe that I'm scared to leave the house.
Yeah.
So even trying to kind of like, I have to literally sit down and think. I have to mentally work myself up to want to leave the house, to want to go out, to want to actually socialize. So sometimes not being in that space and then thinking, oh my God, how am I going to tell this person that this is the reason why? Because naturally everyone sees me as this jolly-go-lucky person. It's just like, oh, but you're always happy all the time. I'm saying being happy is tiring. It's really tiring. It takes a lot of energy. So even when I think like about relationships, so I like, you know, my family's sort of understanding. My sister's always kind of like, Juliana, don't stress yourself. Because again, linked to the ADHD, I feel like when I add more stress to my health, it really brings out a lot of things. So I have panic attacks, and then also kind of like the tiredness is severe, and then insomnia. So I just don't help myself if I get to a point where I'm so stressed. It just makes me even more sick. So most of the time when they're like, oh, Julian, how are you? I'm like, I'm sick. Again? I'm like, yeah, I know.
How do you think I feel?
Do you know what I mean? Because it's just one of those things where I allowed myself to get so stressed and overworked by something that it's now physically affecting my body, and it's made it even worse because, like, you know, I'm not taking the right sort of care of myself.
Routines out the window.
Exactly. So when I was always sleeping. I remember my partner used to get really upset. It's like, oh, you always sleep. because I'm anemic. I'm genuinely tired. First, it was okay. Then after a while, it just got to the point where they were understanding, and I was just like, I get it. I want to be able to spend time with you.
That's it.
I want to be able to kind of like chill and not fall asleep. Or
halfway through the film.
let me tell you, once I'm comfortable on that sofa, there's nothing is stopping these eyes from shutting and doing snuggle, like, feeling in the bed. Like, I'm sleeping. I'm sorry. Like, it's just one of those things. Some people don't understand. Some people do.
Do you
Yeah.
know what? My friend said this to me the other day. It was like, I'm with someone now where sometimes I'll go to the house and we nap together. And that's how
Let me tell you,
quality
that's why
Yeah.
I need to find the babes that I can nap together with,
Listen.
because
that too is quality time.
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's your love
That's my
language.
love
Yeah.
language.
Eh.
Yeah. Nap.
Quality
Acts of
time.
service.
Is your chest a pillow? Well done. Acts of service. That's wonderful. No, man. Honestly, I think that's where I'm like in that limbo where I'm like, I want to spend time with you. This is genuinely what I want to do, and that's where
Yeah.
the like guilt and the anxiety comes in, because you don't want to say no. You actually want to say yes, but you have to say no to sustain yourself,
Yeah.
to be the person you want to be.
Mm.
So it's like that in between stage. So finding that sweet spot,
Yeah.
they can spend time napping together. There's equivalents of that everywhere. So maybe that's where the next stage is like,
Yeah.
how can I be myself, sustain myself, but also spend time with loved ones? and
Absolutely.
communicate that.
Exactly.
And I
that.
think that's something that I'm trying to like implement. Like, for example, if I have like if I want to meet up with a friend on Monday, I'm not doing nothing for Tuesday, Wednesday.
That's
Then
it.
Thursday, maybe I can do something. Then like I have to like make, schedule in gaps so that I don't kind of exhaust myself.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's easier said than done though, because like sometimes just things there might be a bottleneck of like events or whatever, and it's just like what do you kind of commit to? But like it's just kind of hard to explain those things. But you have to just kind of try and stuff.
Maybe we need to figure out a script amongst each other.
Yeah, like it's just
So what lie are we gonna use?
yeah.
What we gonna tell this friend?
Yeah.
I can't make it because
Yeah.
Honestly, even if it's just like a little breakdown of like, guys, at the moment, life is XYZ right now,
Yeah.
so I need XYZ amount of time. I really want to spend time with you, but I can't at the moment because just something nice and like,
yeah.
as a resource there, because in the moment it just feels, because there's all this stuff going on in your head. It's like finding the words is hard. So if we have a
Yeah.
pre-made one where it's like, okay, I know I can just copy and paste this,
Yeah.
and the person hopefully will understand.
Yeah. And do you have times where like you're like all your relationships, like your friendships, whatever, like they're like you're on fire, responding quickly and all of that, and then you just drop off, like you're just like you check out and it's just like, oh, where did she go? Like
She was just here.
like like I have that a lot, and like I just need a lot of space sometimes, and I don't want to kind of engage and stuff, and like again trying to like explain that to people can be quite like, oh, like what's just another thing, do you know what I mean? So like it's something that I'm very paranoid about, and like still trying to kind of work my way through as well. But
because I don't want people to think I'm hot and cold. But it's genuinely, and so I've noticed it with my period as well. Like when I'm off my period, gang, watch me there.
You're
out
the
here.
dance like, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That me where she opens the door, she's like, that's me. I'm outside.
Yes.
Then give me a week and all right.
Yeah.
Give me a week and then I'm humbled again. But it's like, I'm
oh.
genuinely that I don't want to pretend to not be that person in those moments just because I know in a week's time I'm going to lose my energy again. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to live up that, babe.
Yeah.
Like,
Let me tell you, that's honestly exactly me. Like for example, it's like obviously carnival's coming up, and there's back to back events. So my friend's like, I'm going out already on Wednesday. My friend's like, did I think on Thursday? I'm like, hey, if I now say yes to this, and then Saturday my next friend wants me to come to a food market thing. I don't know.
Yeah. It's
Carnival's coming.
you're weighing it.
Carnival Monday.
Yeah.
Carnival is coming.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing. I said I need to preserve my energy
Yeah.
because if I don't, I spend.
Yeah.
The costume was. I must be seen in that
Everybody will
costume.
see you in that place.
Everybody.
Doing the rounds. I need to go to
And
toilet.
let me tell you, I'll be like this.
Hey, gallivanting.
Up and down.
Literally.
For real. So it's about knowing which sort of like events and which things that you can kind of go to. Even though like you said, like I love to be outside. I want to be with my friends.
Yeah.
Having
I
fun.
love them.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I
They're
mean?
amazing
But at the
babes.
same time, I'm just like,
Yeah.
Maybe not this one.
Yeah.
Let's forget
Yeah.
It's the sustainability. And
Rain
I think
check.
ultimately-
yeah, rain check. That's my favorite word.
It's accommodating our needs. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we're doing. And I think that's the difference. Like the intention is not to avoid, like deep down. It's not like I don't want to spend time with you. It's genuinely just accommodating our needs.
Yeah.
So that's the grounding point.
Yeah.
And navigate from there.
Going back to the question, I think something else I just remembered as well is like, because it was about like relationships as well and family, friends and stuff. Like, in relation to like family and stuff, I do think like, especially with growing up with sickle cell, like I was definitely wrapped in cotton wool. Like my, you know, always put on a jacket so don't get cold, or don't do this or don't do that. And like, I think obviously they were doing it from a place of love because they didn't want me to kind of end up in the hospital because they know what that looks like. And obviously it can, I can be in crisis for weeks and stuff, and it can just have a lasting effect on me. So I do though think that it led to me kind of having limiting beliefs, like, oh, I can't do that because of this, or I can't do this. So, and so I just wanted to kind of throw that in there because I think it's important to talk about that. But yeah.
Absolutely. It is sort of, it's kind of like when you do have an illness that, certain things can trigger it.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, parents are immediately trying to be like, I want to protect you. I want to make sure you're okay. Make sure that you don't get to that place where you're in another crisis.
Yeah.
Or those sort of things. With my mum, it's sort of interesting because every time I get sick, she was like, you're sick again.
Yeah.
I'm just like, sometimes naturally I feel fine, but the panic onsets because it's just, it could trigger anything else. So it might not necessarily be like, oh, you're sick or like you're tired, but it's where's that tiredness coming from that could potentially lead into something else.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for example, when I had COVID, some people came out of COVID feeling like, oh, I had a couple of weeks where I was really, really exhausted and whatever. I came out of COVID with a potential heart condition. So I'm now doing further tests because of the fact that I had COVID and it's now affecting my heart.
Yeah.
And I'm doing all of these different things, which now I had to pause on kind of like going into my ADHD medication. I can't even get medication because of, so I'm just like, please. When? And then every time I tell my mum, the test came back this, I was like, oh God, again? I'm like, yeah, I know. But then at the same time, it is sort of kind of like, I don't know whether it's a natural Nigerian parent thing where it's just like, don't be lazy. And it's just like, but no, it's really not laziness.
I literally have
really
a aversion to that word. I'm just like, don't like, it
by
is.
definition, the word lazy is someone who they don't have the intent to do something that they know they should do. The majority of the time we're not being lazy because we want to do it.
Exactly.
It's something else that's blocking us, whether it's task initiation, whether it's fatigue, whether it's brain fog, but the intent is there. So that lazy does not suit what we experience.
Exactly.
We're struggling with task initiation, but they don't understand that one.
I would like to kind of go into what we were discussing at the beginning, which is family planning, and obviously future wise, kind of like as people who carry the trait and as somebody who has full sickle cell, what does family planning look like for you in the future? And if you want to kind of like mention that, stuff like that.
I think it just means that for me, that I have to be conscious of my future partner's blood type, and make sure that that we're a match and stuff like that. I believe like they would have to be AA, which is a blood type, by the way, so that if I did want to have children, that they could, there's a higher chance of them not having sickle cell. But yeah, it's definitely a conversation that is quite sensitive because it is like there is so much stigma around it, like, oh, I feel like anyways that people just kind of think, oh no, I don't want to be with that person because I might have this or that and the other, and it's just as somebody that kind of lives with the condition, it just feels a bit like I don't know, it's a weird feeling to kind of just I totally get it though, like obviously everyone needs to kind of do what's right for them and make an informed decision, it's sensitive, definitely a very sensitive topic, but that's what I think in terms of future.
And yourself?
No, the same. I think And I think actually, even though I've grown up with like sickle cell in my family, and then obviously I've got the trait, it's only after I did a project with a company called Room 113, where they did a short film called His Sickle Journey. That was like basically a short film talking about a guy who met a girl who lets him know that actually I've got sickle cell.
Yeah.
And then he starts researching it, trying to understand, and they're thinking about family planning.
Yeah.
And she said it, quite early on in their relationship, and that kind of made me start thinking that actually, do you know what, that is a conversation that needs to be had as early as possible.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, it is a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
So like, I've said it early on first dates. People have looked at me sideways.
So what is your blood type?
Yeah.
They're looking at me. This baby's feeling me too much. Like, not knowing, I'll take it.
Forward planning.
I'm
Yeah.
planning, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm trying to like not take it too seriously, where I'm like, I don't want people to think because I'm asking, it's because I'm imagining wedding bells.
Yeah.
No.
You're just being
It's whether
like,
and it's whether you want to invest the time
Yeah.
into that, because obviously like getting to know someone, it takes time, and you don't want to kind of like not waste time, but waste time.
I don't want to waste time.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Trying to getting to know somebody to then find out
I
actually
can imagine
they
how
have a
heartbreaking.
trait.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And do you want to now bring children to the world,
Yeah.
potentially, have
Yeah.
deal with,
Yeah.
having sickle cell.
Yeah.
We have to speak about that.
Yeah.
And there's like, we could do it now, we could do it in 6 months or a year's time. Right now sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So like, I've had the conversation, and to be honest, it's actually been quite good. Like, most of the time people have taken it quite well.
Yeah.
It's been quite interesting. Like, oh, why'd you ask? Da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And one time, fine babe, said, yeah, I do have sickle trait.
Oh.
It's been fun. Goodbye.
On that note, over and out. Yeah.
We can't talk about the boxing.
Yeah. Oh.
That interest that brought us here, we can't be friends.
Just escort yourself to the friend zone.
In fact, let me carry myself. Let me go to the bin.
Oh. Yeah.
And I think that one even burnt me, because I actually really, really like this babe. Like,
Aw.
but genuinely, we both were like, because we both grew up with people with sickle cell in our family, so it was kind of like a mutual understanding. Like,
Yeah.
unless we're gonna try IVF and like all these other approaches that are coming up, it will make life difficult, and
Yeah.
we don't want to do that. So, but it's better because now I have peace of mind. I know that I'm doing the best I can, and whatever does happen, I know I can love that child, knowing that I did the best I could to bring them
Yeah.
into the world and have the best quality of life
Yeah.
they deserve.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it.
That's interesting, because I think looking at it from a lens of someone, well, I'm queer, so kind of like my future for me is I would potentially marry and I date women. So what does that look like for me as somebody who is queer and stuff like that? I guess I wouldn't say it's easier, but it is conversations you do want to have. I do want to have with like partners and people that I end up being with, because it's like, if this is this sort of thing does affect me, it might not affect me to the point where I experience crisis and stuff like that. But there are things that the napping, all of these different things that affect me. So it's sort of having those conversations and thinking about it, and then also looking at donors. Like, what sort of donors do I then want to have if I then want to go on and have children? Am I looking at somebody? If I'm looking at somebody who is from the same community as me, I've got to then consider, actually, do they have the trait? Because I do, and all of those stuff. So it's being extra kind of like, not saying that when you look for a donor you're not being extra careful, but it's having those, it's another sort of layer to sort of think about when it comes to wanting to have children and all of those sort of things, and having a donor, doing it through the donor process. So I'm kind of like, even kind of like when I think about it, I was like, I want kids. I do want kids, but just kind of like it's scary to kind of sort of think about all these different things, because like naturally as a kid, like growing up, you're just like, your parents are just like, I just had you because I loved you.
Yeah.
Now you're just like,
now
now you're like, strategically.
They
You
were
don't
on
have to
vibes.
do you know what I mean? They were really on vibes. Do you know what I mean? And now we're like, we're sort of on vibes, but we had to do some tests, and we had to make sure we had to really be together. I love that for our generation, conversation because we're actually doing the things that our parents didn't do. Like, don't get me wrong, vibes is all well and good, but we're taking the necessary sort of precautions to make sure that the next generation don't. Exactly. Do you know what I'm saying? And I love that for us. I love that we're doing that and we're having these conversations, and conversations like this are so important because you can think back 10 years ago, people weren't discussing this. You know, it's just kind of like it felt like it was a silent sort of thing where experiencing it. And you know, people weren't coming out and having the conversations, and even with the trait, people weren't talking about it. It was sort of kind of like the stigma thing. And I sort of want to kind of put like a trigger warning in, so if you don't feel comfortable like talking about this, then obviously pause and then come back to the podcast. But when I was 25, I got pregnant. I unfortunately had a miscarriage, but that was the first question that I was asked. The father of the babies, where is he from? I was like, he black. And then he was like, okay, so we need to get him to do a test just to make sure. So those sort of things is kind of just preparing the person in advance for those sort of like potential things happening and stuff like that. And it is sort of it's an awkward conversation, but it's a conversation that needs to be had. It has to be had because, like you said, you want the quality of life that the child you bring in to be at least, you know, good and decent. Not to say that you don't have a decent life if you do have the trait or the sickle cell, but you just want to make sure that they are, especially with the healthcare is looking around.
That's the bottom line. If the healthcare was good, then it would be completely different. Like, and I know right now there are things coming out to support sickle cell. Like they've got new treatments that are coming out. So it's like it's the overall experience. It's because that's the thing. It's an ableist world because people aren't being looked after who deserve the support. The support is not available. So it's like, what do you want to do within this environment that we're stuck in? But it's not easy, man. Thank you for sharing that because that's it's not easy.
It wasn't at all. And even sort of kind of like, again, resulting in the healthcare system, I felt let down. Again, I was looked on as, you're not experiencing the pain, so we're not going to look to you. And then it led to me to going into theatre. So many things. I had is it sepsis? So I could have died. But all of those things, because they looked at me and she looks fine, and I wasn't, you know. And I was lucky enough because my mum is a nurse, so my mum had to literally shake some tables. Why is it that exactly that? It just seems to think, you know, and like you said, the NHS is completely stretched, but at the same time, you kind of think, you know, we're still putting our monies towards the healthcare system. Help us at least.
That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for too much.
We're really not. But anyway, I don't want to wrap it up, but
I was going to say as well, like just quickly before you go on, like, you know, you said how obviously we're trying to do more than what our parents did. And like you said, like it doesn't mean that anyone's quality of life is not good. We're just trying to like stand on their shoulders type of thing. Because where I see it is like a lot of our parents mind it anyway. They migrated from Nigeria in the 60s and in the 70s. So they came with whatever tools they had from back home, did their best, managed, built foundation for us to now come through. And it's like now us being born in this country, having the resources we have here, you know, having citizenship, we're not worrying about applying for visa, whatever. Like we now have another layer of stability that we can build on. So it's just about building, like
absolutely,
let everybody do their best, and as long as we continue doing that, then we're good.
Absolutely.
It's just growing. It's all just a form
definitely. So lastly, we kind of want to discuss with our listeners on how they can help others.
We want to discuss how listeners can help others. On the 30th of October in Stratford Westfield, London, ADHD Babes will be partnering with Timo and Black Blood Matters UK to host a blood drive as a joint effort for sickle cell awareness and Black History Month. Please head over to our social media platforms for more information and join us in giving blood.
So how our listeners can help each other, as well as I'll kind of like take it back to Moji. Obviously, how have you found, what are the amazing things you have found family and friends to do for you during crisis and just, you know, throughout your life?
I think emotional support is a huge one. You just need somebody that you can rely on, because it is like such a debilitating condition, and you know you can and with sickle cell it can also be other things like mental health, like you know you can lead to depression and anxiety, because like you never know when you're going to anticipate the next crisis. It can kind of put you in a state of anxiety. So I think just having people, loved ones, or anybody that's close to you, like checking in on you. You know, my mum, she rings me every day. She's like, "Have you taken your medication? Have you taken the And I do, like, as much as I'm just like, oh my goodness, mum, like I'm just like, no, like I am grateful that I have somebody that is like always there to kind of like reminds me, like you know, to do this or to take these kind of precautions, because it is a lot to kind of carry on your own head. You know, it's, you know, you do need like a village or a community. And obviously I've got friends as well that kind of like tell me about things like I had a friend that told me about the freedom pass, like people with sickle cell can get the freedom pass. So like, yeah, like there's just so many different ways that you can just lessen the load and make their lives a little bit easier. But like I think for me at least, emotional support is key and stuff. So yeah.
And does that tie hand in hand with like your ADHD as well?
Yeah. I think because the ADHD is kind of more new, I'm kind of learning to kind of ask for support and kind of like tell people how it affects me so that they're aware of it and stuff. But yeah, it's still something that's kind of I'm navigating and trying to kind of understand for myself. But yeah, I think I would it would be like parallel to what I said about sickle cell. I just need like emotional support and just people that I can rely on and that can get me. You don't want to have to kind of over explain and do the most, because that can be taxing and exhausting in and of itself. So yeah.
Cool. So before we wrap up, it'll be kind of great to kind of talk about like what we've learned today and what we, you know, will take away from this episode, kind of going out to people and stuff. So over to you.
Man, there's so much to take away. I think definitely, I think the experience, like, because I think we're talking about sickle cell, but I think the experience of Black women in like medical care is that kind of overarching umbrella that I'm going to take away in terms of like how difficult it is for us to get the support that we deserve, and how much of a battle it can be to just get like basic human care, and it's not fair and it's not right, and it's something that, you know, I guess being able to speak about it means that, you know, you're not alone. And that's the start of whatever that can turn into, whether it's like more studies that highlight the issue so that goes into the healthcare system and they get called up on things and it gets brought to the surface. So I think, just like having in the back of my mind that it's actually something that's really important. And if there's ways for us to like look after ourselves in these spaces, whether it's doing it outside of the spaces or advocating inside the spaces, whatever it is, but that seed is like in my head now. So thank you for sharing your experience.
No worries at all.
I think just hearing all our experiences has been refreshing, and, you know, kind of like it's just been beautiful, because like you sometimes, like you say, you feel alone.
Yes.
When people don't understand that this is what you are going through and, you know, you're experiencing. And of course, you know, as somebody who has this sickle cell trait, it's kind of like, you know, hopefully there are organizations and communities are doing further tests in how it does affect people on a day-to-day sort of basis. You know, we might, like you said, we might not have the full-blown disease. There are parts of it that does impact us. So I definitely will do, as an ADHD babes, more research. We love to do research.
We love it.
Super focused. So is there anything, just before we go again, is there anything you would like to share about what you have coming up, Moji?
Just before I answer that, just kind of going back, because another thing just popped into my head. I thought I'd throw it in there as well. I think if you know somebody with sickle cell anemia or even sickle cell trait, like give them grace, give them compassion. You know, that, you know, if like that, you know, life is hard. Please show us grace and compassion. Like, we're trying our best, and so like that means the world to us when you just kind of understand, and we don't have to kind of, it's already such a exhausting condition anyway. We don't want to have to kind of extend more energy trying to kind of get you to understand what we're going through. So yeah, I think love, compassion and grace is such a key thing, because yeah, it just makes life a lot easier for us. But yeah, in terms of what I've got coming up, I guess people can follow me on Instagram, so I can leave my handle. I do a bit of writing here and there, so if you want to check out yeah, I love writing, so and I want to write more about my experiences as it relates to sickle cell, as it relates to ADHD, as it relates to life, like and just like navigating mental health and that kind of stuff. So yeah, like, you know, follow me, and hopefully I can like share some stuff with you. Yeah.
Do you like handles, websites? Yeah,
so it's at MOJI_X. So yeah, Moji_X.
And that's on
Instagram. Yeah.
Cool. And obviously yourself, Viv, ADHD Bibs founder. Where can they find you?
You can find me on the gram. I'm joking. Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and all that jazz as VVN Sings, Victor November Sings. And also my link tree, because I do music and performing arts and whatnot, so you can find all my stuff on Spotify and iTunes and all that as VVN. Or yeah, type my link tree in, which is VVN Sings as well.
Amazing. Thank you both for joining us this week. It's been an amazing episode.
Thank you.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you people to listen. Well, you're listening now, but you know, whatever. Yeah. You can find me. This is where it gets lost because I don't remember my handles for a lot of things. But on Instagram you can find me at Julez Katrina or Julez Cat. I'm looking at yeah. Shauna knows. And I'm also a writer producer. I also have my production company, which is Purple Night Color. So I do a lot of stuff on there. So yeah, you can find me there. And just before we go, don't forget you can reach out to us with a message of your Dear Babes advice episode. You can send us a voice note or a written message by clicking the links in the show notes. Again, thank you for joining us for this episode. Please feel free to follow so you don't have to miss future episodes, and we'd love if you can leave us a rating and a review and let everyone know your thoughts. So catch you next time, and it's been great. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of ADHD Babes, the podcast. If you're a Black woman or non-binary person and needs help and support in managing your ADHD or advice on diagnosis, please visit ADHDbabes.com. No clinical diagnosis is required to join. Join us in 2 weeks for a new episode. Until then, all the love from the ADHD Babes team.